The opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Cable 14, its sponsors, or its shareholders, Cogeco Cable, Shaw Cable, and Source Cable Limited.
And welcome to the October 18th edition of Hamilton Talks. I am Larry Di Ianni, and Hamilton Talks is a community affairs program that speaks to prominent Hamiltonians, as well as Hamiltonians who may not be as well known, but are also moving our community forward. And we're thrilled this evening to be in conversation with Melissa Tancredi. Melissa Tancredi was born in Hamilton and began playing soccer when she was 4 years old. This early love of the sport led her to extend her playing at Cathedral High School, adding volleyball and track to her repertoire. She was named Athlete of the Year and MVP in her senior year at high school. Melissa went on to study and major in anthropology at Notre Dame University. Following that, she's been a forward on the Canadian women's soccer team for 9 years, has appeared in 88 senior international caps, tallying 22 goals since 2004. She's represented Canada at 2 FIFA World Cups, 2 Olympic Games, winning a bronze medal for our country in this year's London Games. She scored 4 goals and 2 assists, making her the 3rd leading scorer behind Christine Sinclair and Emmy Wambach of the USA. 10.7 million people watched her team obtain glory. The team is now preparing for the 2015 FIFA Games, and they are being hosted right here in Canada. She lives in Ancaster, which is part of our city, and we welcome Melissa to our program. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, it really is a thrill. I've never spoken to an Olympic winner before, a medal winner, wow. Let alone interviewed one on television, so it really is an honor. And of course, we followed with great passion your team, and we'll talk about that, and we'll talk a little bit about how you got there, what the experience was like. But of course, you won a bronze medal, and you brought it with you. So let's see it right away.
I'll bring her out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like to carry her around.
And there it is, and we can show it to our camera. That'll pan down on the bronze medal. And I held it. You were kind enough to let me hold it earlier. It's very heavy. How much does it weigh?
It is. I don't know. I think it's only 1.5 pounds, they said. But it feels heavier than that to me.
It does. And it was a thrill when you received it. We, of course, watched as the presenters were giving all of the team the medals after you won bronze. What was that like? What was that moment like?
You know, I always say it, and it may sound cliche, but it was honestly a dream come true for me, you know, to see our flag up there amongst the 3 flags of the medal winners. It was just something I've pictured ever since I was a kid, and finally it happened, and it was very emotional, but also a dream come true and a very proud moment.
All right, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to reconstitute that moment and what led the controversy that led to it as well. But let's find out a little bit about Melissa first. You live in Ancaster right now. You've been playing soccer since you were 4 years old. Tell us about those early years. Do you have memories of that?
I do. I used to play in the fields behind Ancaster High that still exist, and I used to play house league there for Ancaster with the same 3 teams over and over and over until I was about 13 years old. And a bunch of the girls that, you know, I played and grew up with still, you know, support me to this day and come to my appearances and, you know, always there in our games and whenever we play at home. And it's still a community that supports their soccer.
And then, of course, you went to elementary school in Ancaster, I'm sure, but then high school, right downtown Hamilton at Cathedral High School. Why Cathedral?
French immersion was my big draw there. I went to school at St. Joseph, actually, in Locke Street in Herkimer in Hamilton. So I've been, you know, doing my school in Hamilton since I was a kid, and Cathedral was the only school at the time that had French immersion nearby, and what a great fit that is, especially with athletics there, you know.
Well, and Cathedral High School is renowned as a great academic school, of course, but also a sports school.
Absolutely.
Certainly in boys' sports. Yeah. But also in girls' sports, What was it like playing in the shadow, as perhaps you did, of some of the more prominent boys' teams at Cathedral High School?
I loved it. I loved going to the events. I loved going to football games. I loved going to the basketball games. It was the first time I've actually experienced that sort of tradition when it comes to sports, and I was engulfed in it. Any chance I had to go and travel with them to OFSA, I would take, and I love sports. It's my life, and I think that was the first taste of actually being part of a sporting community and, bleeding the blue and white. It was pretty incredible.
And did you, at that early stage, figure that sport was going to be a career for you?
I didn't think it would be a career. I knew it was something that I loved, that I wanted to, stick with for as long as possible. I did not see the opportunity yet at that time. I just did it because I enjoyed it and I like to challenge myself. But, it was later on in my high school years when I started getting the letters for scholarships and for soccer. And, my parents were like, this could be a career for you. And they kind of brought it up to me, to start thinking about it that way. And but for me, I had to focus on my academics really to, make sure I had a career in something. So that was pretty much.
Who was the soccer coach at Cathedral in those days?
I had Mr. Rest in peace, Mr. Girgenti. He was,
yes.
The late Mr. Girgenti. He was my soccer coach for a while. And then Sandra Cortina, who is now Sandra Daly, she also coached me as well.
I knew Mr. Girgenti, and I know the Cortina family, including Sandra, and they would be very good mentors for young people. And then, of course, you went to Notre Dame University in the States, in Grand Bend, in Indiana. What drew you there?
The campus, really. I think the history behind that school is just pretty amazing, but the campus to me was gorgeous. It drew me in. I knew academically it was somewhere that I could, really make a name for myself and graduate with something, diploma from a school that anyone knew. And I think that was my number one choice. And for sports, the football team has been, top class for, years back. And the soccer team I didn't know much about. I knew, they were good. I didn't know how good they were. And I, was immersed into a program that was so professional, so well run and pretty amazing. And it kind of, springboarded me into my career right now.
And in fact, Notre Dame and the Irish are legendary in terms of football, and the campus is amazing. If anybody has never been, it's an experience to go see a football game, as I've had the opportunity to do on occasion in Grand Bend, because it really captures everybody for the whole time that you're there. Mm-hmm. And then the experience of the game is just the icing on the cake. Yeah. And of course, this is, again, male sports. Women's sports are well received there as well.
Absolutely. I think women's soccer is one of the top sports there amongst the basketball team as well. So, yeah, both communities, they do well to play amongst each other and promote both the women's and men's teams.
And, of course, the good thing is that it's also an academically strong university as well. And you actually had two majors there. What did you major in?
Anthropology and pre-professional studies, which is like my pre-med. And I kind of did anthropology for the cultural anthropology side, the debating issues. I love that. And, something to soften up my pre-med program as well.
And, of course, we'll talk a little bit about your ambitions post-soccer.
Yeah.
But after Notre Dame, you began to play professional soccer. Did you tell us a little bit about that?
I started with smaller teams. I played in Atlanta, in Detroit, and finally got my big break when the WPS, which is a women's professional soccer league, started in 2009. And I played for St. Louis Athletica there professionally for a year. So that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, so you actually have played in the United States. You've played in Vancouver in Canada, professional soccer, and in Europe, in Sweden. How did you get to Sweden?
It was a fluke. One of my teammates already had played there for 2 or 3 years, and somebody on the board was very interested in having me come over. And, I was first approached when I first came out of college to go to Sweden. I said no, because what a big, change to go to Europe by myself right out of college. I was too young. And finally I was like, I'm at a time in my career when I can try things like this. And I have the stability, and I tried it out. My teammate brought me in. The board members brought me in right after the World Cup. My last game against Nigeria, they scouted me, and they actually sat behind my parents. It was kind of nuts. But they brought me in and had a great experience there.
And so you've got a perspective then on how soccer is received in the States, in Canada, and in Europe. Can you compare the reaction in each of those countries?
I think in Canada, soccer is very young, and you can't compare to the European sport right now. You know, soccer there is a lifestyle. It is life for them, and the passion is unbelievable. You know, it is the Saturdays and the Sundays where all families go out and support the team that, you know, they grew up supporting since they were kids. But we're growing here, and I think hopefully this kind of exposure from the Olympics will, you know, help our team, help our program, and the men's team has a great chance of making the World Cup as well. You know, coming this weekend they play Cuba, which is a huge game for them, and you know, soccer culture is starting, it's beginning. Right now at the grassroots level, I think we have it down. I think it's the #1 sport right now in Canada. So as long as we keep that going, especially with 2015 coming up, I think we're in a good spot.
Well, we're going to talk about that, but let me just tell you, we're going to see a graphic of this.
Okay.
Of course, your nickname is Tank,
yes,
for obvious reasons, because Tancredi sounds like tank,
yes,
but also because you're a very aggressive
yes,
player on the field. And of course, Tancredi sounds like Tank Lady, and the Japanese with whom you've played against, actually
yes,
is a very cute cartoon of that.
All
Let's
right.
see it on the screen and get your reaction.
Looks just like me.
Actually, it looks like a superhero is what it does. And there you go. So there's great camaraderie. And of course, then you played with the national team, which is the elite of the elites, right? What was that like, trying to crack that team? Did you envision yourself doing it? Was it tough? Tell us a little bit about that experience.
My first chance to make the team was to go to Algarve Cup when Evan Pellerud was on board, and it was when I was a lot younger than when I first came on board with the team. And I had my bag set to go, and I decided last minute I wasn't ready. I didn't want to go, so I pulled out, and it wasn't until 3 or 4 years later when I was done college that he gave me a call again, and he was like, listen, I'd like you to come in, play defense for us. And you know, that was my first big break, to play Costa Rica at the Olympic qualifiers there for Canada. I played center back, and you know, what an experience to play with these girls I watched on TV, and it was their life. And for me, it was an honor, and I was just playing to have fun. But I think, you know, I learned that this is a lifestyle, and I need to take it a little more seriously than I did.
So give me some idea of what the training regimen is for someone who plays at the national level.
Oh, it's like a full-time job, honestly. I know people are like, you don't work, but we honestly do. I'd like to see anyone who works to come into our shoes and just try it for a little bit. It's, you know, it's taxing, whether it be physically or mentally. You're doing it all. And, you know, you're training 5-6 hours a day, whether it be on field, off the field, in the gym, or even mental training or video training. It's nonstop, and not to mention, you know, you have to eat right, you have to sleep well, 9 hours a night. It's just, it's a full-time job, and I love it. It's been my life for the past 9 years now, and I'm proud to do it.
And of course, part of the experience, as well as the Olympics, were the World Cups, the FIFA World Cups. And there was some disappointment with the last Olympics game. And tell us a little bit about the coach, Carolina Morace, because when I certainly read about her coming and coaching the Canadian team and saw the great experiences that she'd had and the technical knowledge that she had, we were all hoping for the best to have occurred earlier than it did. What happened? Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, first and foremost, Carolina is a tactical genius. She brought something to our team we've never had before, and that's playing different systems, you know, being intelligent on the soccer field, understanding football, and being a student of the game. And she brought that kind of lifestyle to us. She also brought a physical lifestyle to us where, you know, we learned how to be real athletes, and we learned how to train as actual soccer players, not the hockey player style of training. And it was very sport specific. And she brought all of that, as well as nutrition and European style. And she changed our whole system. She changed our whole team, and she made an impact right away. You know, we shot up to 6th in the whole world, and we were beating teams that people didn't expect us to beat. And we had high expectations going into the World Cup. Obviously, we all did, even her. And we flopped. We came in last place, and no one really saw that coming. We didn't. And I think, you know, it was a lot for her. I think it was very difficult, and any coach that's a part of that kind of, you know, national team and not living up to expectations, it's hard to take on the burden. And I think, well, she wanted to do different things, so she resigned, unfortunately. But, fortunate enough to get a new coach, John, who is an amazing man and kind of turned our program, took what Carolina had changed us into and kind of brought us a little bit further.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the different coaching styles between Carolina, who was the technical expert, who changed systems, who inspired you folks to believe that you could win, and you did until the awful collapse. And then John Herdman came in, obviously understands soccer, knows soccer, but to me as well, anyway, as an outsider, I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, but he seemed to work on attitude as well as the skills to really make you believe that you could fulfill the dream.
I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think John brought a whole aspect of balance to our lives, and I think he brought in family as well. He brought in living in Canada and being close to home, and incorporating the fans here as well. We did everything soccer, and without that balance of family, friends, and having a normal social life, it kind of was a destructive path. And John is not only an amazing man, he's a great motivator, he's a family man, he's a tactical genius as well. But he expanded on what Carolina brought to our team, and he brought in more detail-oriented things. He brought in high-tech gear, whether it be heart rate monitoring or GPS gear, and he brought in amazing technical team as well. Professionals from who knows where they're from, Wales, Scotland, people who have played at the top level in the men's game. He brought in a mental coach who's dealt with the All Blacks in the rugby team, and we had state-of-the-art everything, and it was hard not to do well under his realm, I should say.
Well, and in fact, you folks did very, very well. So let's talk about the Olympic experience, because, of course, we wanted, and you had pledged to be on the podium. Absolutely. And you fulfilled that pledge. Yep. We wanted you to be, and I think you did as well, to have won the gold medal. Yes. And some of us believe that you should have, and I'm sure that the team believes that you should have. And yet you were, let me use the word, you don't need to because I don't want you to get in trouble, but I think you were cheated out of that opportunity by a very bad call by the Norwegian referee. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Oh, what a game. It was semifinal games at, Old Trafford, Manchester United. To play on that pitch alone is pretty much a dream come true for a lot of us. And, to play against the #1 team in the world, our rivals, all-time rivals, it was a perfect stage, perfect stage set for our victory. And it didn't happen. We gave it our all. We played our best soccer we've played in our whole lives. And I think anyone who watched that game would attest to that. And I think we brought a style of soccer, an aggressive style, and an in-your-face kind of style that kind of took the Americans by surprise. And I think you could see that we were leading 3 different times. And unfortunately, in the 125th minute, who knows? Alex Morgan just put one past Aaron McLeod, and it was perfectly placed header. And all our dreams were washed away in about 5 seconds, and it was pretty unbelievable and hard to deal with.
Did you see where were you when the call was made against the Canadian goalie because she held the ball a little too long, and the referee, tell us about that. Where were you?
I was way up the pitch waiting for Erin's punt because she can punt it. So I was way up the pitch, and as soon as the ref made that call and was running towards the spot, I sprinted my butt off as fast as I could because I was like, what's going on? I didn't expect what she was calling, and I don't think anyone in the stands knew what was going on.
And tell our fans who may not have seen the game, who may not be as well-versed in soccer, what that call was.
It was a 6-second call. Usually when that's called, you give the goalkeeper a warning, a yellow card. And
in other words, release the ball sooner.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And you have to give a warning so she knows.
Yeah.
But there was no warning, no card given. It was just a spot call, and she gave an indirect free kick right on the edge of our box, so pretty dangerous. But we ended up blocking it, and it ricocheted off of a player's back and touched a girl's arm as well as she was turning. So.
And they called what?
They called a penalty kick, handball. Yes.
Right. And so even that call should not have been made because it was an indirect, was it?
That to me wasn't, it wasn't purposeful. It wasn't hand to ball. It was ball to hand, and she was trying to get out of the way. But, I'm not a referee. I'm just a player. I used to be a referee back in the Hamilton days. But, I thought it was a pretty pretty rough call against, the girl who was trying to get away.
Okay. And so we know we lost that game.
Yes.
So you're out of the
Medal
gold
contention,
and
yes.
silver.
Yep.
Because the American team went on to play for the gold.
Absolutely.
And who played for the silver?
Japan.
Japan played for the silver. So you're out of that. So now you're in the dressing room. You have to get up for the bronze match because you want to be on the podium, but you've got to be really down.
Oh, absolutely.
What does the coach say to you?
The coach did not say anything to us for the next 24 hours, I think. We only have two days in between, and then we have another game. So the first day he was like, listen, you guys, take your time. We're not going to talk. Just go and do what you need to do. And a lot of us, stayed in bed. A lot of us, spoke about it, expressed our frustrations. And then the next day he brought us together. He had our mental coach, and he just sat us down, and Carrie is his name, and he was like, listen, I'm going to put it into perspective. You didn't lose a family member. You didn't lose a limb. He's like, you lost one game, and you still have one chance at a medal. You didn't lose your medal chances at all. And you have a chance to do something a summer team hasn't done for Canada since 1936. And then he showed on a screen about tweets, emails, fan letters from people back home. Our Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, sent us, a video, a congratulations video and a pump-up video. And Celine Dion also wrote us as well. So we knew that we had a lot of Canadians back home rooting for us and supporting us and watching us, and we knew it was bigger than us. We had to bring home a medal for Canada. That's what we came here to do, and we had to, fulfill that.
And so you pulled it all together.
Yeah.
And it was a tough game, though, wasn't it?
Very tough game.
Right?
Our hearts were in it. You could tell we were fighting, but our legs were just kaput. Like, we were done. But unbelievable game. Like, what a storybook ending there for Diana Matheson. Just put it in with the last 30 seconds of the game. So.
And so tell us a little bit about, and we were thrilled that you did, and it all ended well. Christine is a super player. Is she the leader on the team?
She's our captain, yeah. She's absolutely our captain for a reason. She's a leader on the field and off.
And of course, she did get herself into a little bit of trouble by criticizing the referee.
Yes.
That still hasn't unfolded as exactly what FIFA will do there.
Yeah, it's still ongoing.
So what do you think will happen?
I have no idea, honestly. If it were up to me, nothing would happen. I think she was very emotional, as we all were, and the timing was really weird in the media pit right after the game, and any player is going to express their frustrations about that game, and they lost their gold medal chances right there. But I honestly have no idea what FIFA will decide, and hopefully we find out soon so we can kind of move on from that.
Yeah, we need to do that, and we wish her well, of course, and I'm sure you'll convey that. Melissa, of course, soccer is your life right now.
Yes.
You would be playing in Europe as well as on the national team, except that the European team went belly up, I understand. You were telling me earlier, which is too bad.
Yeah.
But soccer is not going to be your life forever. So what's next for Melissa?
I'm actually going back to school in January. I started my schooling for chiropractic college back in 2005. And I'm on my 7th year. It's a 3-year program, and I'm on my 7th year, so I need to finish that up. I have about a year and a bit left, and then hopefully be a chiropractor either with the team or, any team, any sports team, and get involved in the community as well on grassroots level, and hopefully, make a name for myself that way.
So the pre-med work that you did at university will stand you in good stead, indeed. Well, listen, Melissa, I don't need to tell you how proud we were of you and all of your teammates. You brought honor to our country. And you personally are bringing honor to our community, and we're very proud of that. And I know that you were feasted by the Sons of Italy organization last night.
Had a good dinner.
And you had a good time. And you also inspired some young female soccer players, and you kindly commented that you see some soccer players in the girls that you met in the community as well.
Absolutely.
And I think your role as a role model, I think, is something that all of us should be proud of as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being on Hamilton Talks.
Thanks for having me. Great.
It was great.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you, Melissa. And we've been in conversation with Melissa Tancredi, Olympic medal winner in the last Olympics. And I want you to tune in next week when we talk to Tom Wilson, iconic rocker from the city of Hamilton as well. Please watch again.